It's over 9,000!
Welcome, Super Elite Warriors, to Final Forum, a podcast for the discussion of all things Dragon Ball. I am your host, Jelli, an elite recruiting member of the Frieza Force on a mission to find the best warriors from across the galaxy to join the greatest army of all time. And I am joined, as always, by my new recruit co-host.
This is the Bekinney, and I could get used to this.
Listeners, as you may remember from last time, we have arrived at K2-332.
That's such an officious and lazy name for such a great planet.
And if you recall, as we approached the planet, a swarm of unidentified power readings was approaching our ship.
Swarm. Another poor word to use for what was a wonderful greeting party.
Yes, listeners, the oncoming horde turned out to not be a group of warriors coming to challenge or attempt to eliminate us, but an assemblage of this planet's native race, there to assist us upon arrival to their world.
Assist. Assemblage. You're being so cold.
Don't you find it all a bit odd?
What, that we weren't violently attacked for once? That beyond simply not being actively attacked, we're being welcomed? Hell, even pampered? These lovely creatures have laid out the red carpet for us, bringing us their finest food and drink and setting us up in this well-appointed room with these comfortable, albeit odd-looking cushions. Can't you just accept that we don't have to constantly be under the threat of something?
I can't. There's something strange going on here. How did they know who we were? Why can they only communicate with you? Why are they rolling out such niceties for us if they don't even know why we're here?
What is this, opposite day? How am I the one that's relaxed and calmed and you're the one that's suspicious and nervous?
Because I don't trust creatures with feathers.
Okay, that's prejudiced. Borderline speciest. Not very befitting of an ambassador of the Frieza Force.
You want me to just believe that these birdmen are doing this and being this nice to the two aliens that they just met for no reason other than hospitality? I'm telling you, there's something not right here. I thought you said this planet was tidally locked and there's only a small habitable area. If resources are tight, why are they giving away things so freely?
Listen to you. For once, we've got full bellies and comfortable surroundings. There's no monster insects or flowing lava pits or ominous underground caverns. We're in a nice treehouse on a perfectly fine day with no immediate threats. Just relax.
I can't.
Party pooper.
Well, since I can't calm my mind and I've already ruined your relaxed mood, let's get a little animated and discuss this week's topic. And this week we're going to be continuing on the 23rd Tenkaichi Budokai, and getting into episodes 140 through 143 of the Dragon Ball anime.
That's right. So let's start off with our summary for episode 140, titled Goku Gains Speed. So the matches seem pretty even, but it would appear the pace is wearing on Tien faster than Goku. Look, the budget for this ep really took a hit, and it's showing. They take a break from fighting to gas each other up over how good their training is paying off, and then Tien hints that he's figured out Goku's weakness. He takes to the sky again and starts flying around at high speed to overwhelm Goku. It seems to be successful. In fact, Tien seems to have no problem landing a hit on Goku. So what's changed? Or rather, what hasn't changed? It would seem that Goku, despite all of his training, hasn't actually gotten any faster since the last time they fought. But wait a minute. What was all that training Goku did to become faster than lightning? Something fishy's going on here. The secret's sort of shown, but it's subtle. Goku can see Tien, but he can't keep up with him. Tien confirms Goku hasn't gotten any faster. So what's the deal? Well, it seems that Goku's been fighting with an imposed handicap. He's wearing weighted clothing at Kami's request, an extra 250 pounds to be exact. And another trope is born. Goku gets in a quick stretch and he's ready for part 2. After a quick exchange, Tien seems confident, but Goku doesn't seem that much faster until he realizes that Goku has actually stolen his belt and his pants have fallen down around his ankles in front of the crowd. Tien still doesn't give up, however, and decides to go for his trump card, which is a new technique, which is revealed in the next episode, which is 141, titled The Four Faces of Tien. So what could this devastating technique possibly be? 12 eyes? Fortunately, we don't have to wait long. Tien makes 4 copies of himself and literally watches his own back. The four forms technique seems to be incredibly effective. Not even Goku can handle 4 dudes at once. Or can he? Goku's speed seems to be an issue for Tien. However, with the fight being contained to a square ring, one Tien in every corner means there's nowhere that Goku can run. He tries to blast Goku from all 4 corners at once, but Goku escapes into the air. While clever, Tien foresaw this and has a follow-up attack waiting to take him down. It looks like the end of the line for Goku, but he manages to find his feet and a solution to Tien's technique. Tien doubles down by basically using the same technique again and just basically daring Goku to show him what the weakness is. So Goku actually explains that there is not just one weakness, but 2 weaknesses, in fact. And they replay replay what had just happened previously. And when Goku heads for the air this time, we learn the first weakness, which is Tien's eyesight. Goku fires off one of Tien's own techniques against him, the solar flare, and blinds all 12 of those pesky eyes. Once he's back on the ground, Goku quickly demonstrates weakness number 2. Splitting yourself into 4 means each person has 1/4 of your total strength. A quick barrage of attacks later, and all 4 Tiens are now outside the ring. Goku's headed to the final yet again, but how will Kami fare against Ma Jr.? Which brings us to episode 142, Kami versus Piccolo. So how does a god fight a younger step version of themselves? By being the dad that stepped up. For Goku. See, Kami's here because he believes Goku can't defeat Ma Jr. Not that Goku isn't strong enough, but because Goku knows if Ma Jr. dies, so does Kami. He doesn't want Goku to have to kill both of them, so he stepped in to save Goku from making that choice. Their heart-to-heart nearly costs Kami the match, however, as it makes him late. Shen heads out, but not before tipping his hand a little bit. It seems that the humans have taught him how to deal with Ma Jr. without ending his own life. It's against the rule for God to kill himself, you know. The fight has an explosive start, but neither fighter seems to have the upper hand, despite one of them actually getting buried beneath the ring. The next exchange shows once again that Kami and Ma Jr. are fairly evenly matched, but Kami takes a small hit in order to protect the audience. Kami thinks to himself that Piccolo has grown too strong, and Piccolo reads his mind. Uh-oh, looks like all cards are on the table now, including how Kami will defeat Piccolo. The Mafuba. But wait, doesn't that kill the user and God isn't supposed to kill himself? Shut up. It doesn't matter anyway because Piccolo has developed a technique of his own, the reverse Mafuba. And with that, God is locked up in a tiny sake jar. On to the finals, I guess. And that brings us to our last episode this week, episode 143, titled Battle for the Future. The stakes have never been higher for the final of a Budokai. Ma Jr. tested Kami with a sick reversal, and just like that, there's no God to save us. After Shin awakens as himself and is very confused as to how he got here, he just runs off home. But his son's the real winner, as he can now absolutely dominate every my dad can beat up your dad argument for the rest of his life. As the crowd waits for the final to kick off, some storm clouds roll in. Ominous. Ma Jr. decides to take the thematic advantage by holding Kami hostage in his stomach. Now Goku can't save Kami without killing him, which means Kami would die. Which is, a devious trap that a villain would do. Haha, lightning crash. The crowd scatters to look for cover from the rain, but the Kami crew is still looking for an explanation. And boy, do they get one. Ma Jr. is Piccolo. There's a flashback of Goku perforating the first Piccolo and confirming what we already knew several episodes ago. This is totally the same guy, but stronger than the last time. But wait, they also get the explanation on Kami and his backstory as well. Are we all caught up now? Good, great, awesome, let's fight. Mr. Announcer does his thing, and the crowd is going wild and making Jackie Chun jokes, apparently. Both fighters enter the ring, and sparks are already flying. The gong rings, and both rush in to exchange a flurry of blows, gauging each other's strength. They slowly raise the skill level of the fight, eventually making it to faster than the human eye can follow. However, despite a strong showing, Goku is quickly put in the dirt. Will Goku have what it takes? Guess we'll have to find out next time.
These are episodes that are great when they're good, and
not so great when they're not.
Yeah.
One of the things that I noticed about, especially towards this latter part of the tournament arc, is that the art really starts to fluctuate a lot within the same episode.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You'll have some absolutely gorgeous shots, and then you'll have some absolutely terrible looking ones.
Right, and I'm sure someone probably knows the why of that, but I do wonder. I know as Dragon Ball was winding down, Torishima, and he's winding down at this point as Toriyama's editor. Actually, he's about to move on and become just a even bigger and more influential and important person within Shueisha. I think that is part of the reason why he feels comfortable. I think he voices like not loving the quality of the Dragon Ball anime. He thinks the reason why it's not even bigger and more popular is because it is the same team, or groups of teams, because I know they had different animation houses, that was responsible for Dr. Slump. And he thinks that people are still just like, it's too slumpish in the anime form. That's part of the reason why they went to a new team and rebranded the show.
Okay.
So I wonder if that's part of it, or I wonder the general style, but also, yeah, like you mentioned, we get a lot of brief flashbacks to Goku perforating Piccolo the first time, and okay, that's the classic filler or padding or whatever you want to call it, where it's just like that is maybe the most egregiously bad kind.
The other thing I was gonna bring up is I'm also noticing like the long charge up times for a technique is starting to really take hold here, and you'll end up losing like 2 or 3 minutes of an episode of like characters explaining what they're going to do right before they do it.
Yeah. So great episodes when they are good, though.
Mm-hmm.
And there's enough good that I think pulls you through for sure.
Well, plus, and the just the storyline itself is really good, and they really do a good job of ratcheting up the tension.
Yes. So the weighted clothing. This is the first time we see someone wear weighted clothing, not just the turtle shells. The idea we have seen before with the turtle shells, and there are a whole bunch of cinematic precursors to Toriyama, including it in Dragon Ball, but those films, by and large, are not popular. Certainly not on the scale that Dragon Ball is, or was, or even probably is today, where it's not as popular as it once was. And many of the people who utilize training with weighted clothing today actually will say, oh, I first saw it on Dragon Ball, and they'll cite Dragon Ball as a reference. To date, nobody has found a non-movie predecessor to this type of passive training. So it's not like we talked about, like with some of the beam attacks and ki attacks and the Dodon ray or the Dodonpa, that comes from the idea of, like, I can't remember if it was Shaolin monks, but like you flick your finger and then you flick your finger and you keep using heavier and heavier weights to flick your finger until you can start moving objects just with the flick of your finger, and then
or like putting candles out from like a distance or something like that.
Yeah, and then eventually your finger flick gets so powerful it can ignite candles, and that was like a written down Buddhist Shaolin teaching. That's nothing with weighted clothing has ever been found. The movies that are precursoring Dragon Ball or predecessing Dragon Ball in this are, there's like this obscure kung fu film called Shaolin versus Lama, and no one's ever heard of this. So you could very easily say that if Dragon Ball doesn't invent the idea, it is responsible for it becoming popular and becoming a thing that gets used over and over and in other shows and things from there. It's like Dragon Ball is like the first thing that's popular to use it. There's definite benefits in real life to using weighted clothing, but there's definitely, if you are actually interested in doing it, you should do some research because the proper amount of weight to use and drawbacks potentially do outweigh the gains. So like Goku's constantly walking around with hundreds of additional pounds on him. You're not supposed to walk around with more than like an extra 5 pounds. You can actually like compress the discs in your spine and cause
I was
yourself.
gonna say, wouldn't this have like all kinds of joint problems if you did something like this?
Yes, it like you can cause joint problems and herniated discs and compressed spinal discs and have spinal cord problems. So yeah, you're not supposed to walk around with more than like an extra 1.5 pounds on like each of your extremities. So you can have like a little ankle weight or a little wrist weight, and like that's kind of it. You're not supposed to go heavier than a few pounds, and you're not supposed to wear it all the time. So Goku paralyzed by the time he's 50, confirmed.
He doesn't care as long as he gets to fight strong people before then.
The four-man splitting technique that Tien does, it's called the Shishin no Ken, or just Fist of Four Bodies. For the sake of brevity, this is a technique associated with Tien's Tenmei. He's going to do it later on, and we've got a lot to talk about actually with this episode, so we'll save the discussion of the Shishin no Ken for later. What you also notice in these episodes is for the first time we have Piccolo and Kami speaking to each other in a different language. And that language is what becomes Namekian. And Namekian is really just basically Japanese in reverse. Though I'm not super clear if that's reverse like Masharito in Slump, where the characters are reversed, and the syllables are Masharito versus Toriyama, or if it's like playing the words themselves in reverse, like, you know, instead of slump, it would be pmuls, or, you know, I don't know which of the two Namekian is in that respect, because it all just sounds foreign to my ears. But the idea of Namek doesn't exist yet. So if you want an explanation for this that would make sense at the time, it's maybe that a god and a demon are speaking some sort of previously unknown divine language that only they understand. Maybe. But maybe it's also a possibility, as we'll see, I think in our next episode or maybe later in these, I can't remember where, but it's also possible that at this point, Toriyama is already starting to consider, hey, maybe this dude is not only not human, but maybe he's actively alien. Now, why does Kami use a sake bottle? It's because actually sake is historically an important and sacred drink in Japan. It has a pretty low alcohol content, and it's not supposed to be used to get you drunk. Rather, it's considered a distilled and purified drink to be offered to Kami. Sake has a long history in Japan, and like you can get drunk on it now. I think there's more highly alcoholic versions, and you could have gotten drunk on it back in the long ago also, but it was seen as being like kind of rude and taking advantage of people's hospitality and things if you would get drunk on their sake. The earliest stories of sake date back to Japan's earliest legends, and the character Susanoo, the storm god who fights Orochi, the eight-headed dragon, and winds up winning the battle after getting Orochi drunken on extra potent sake, and then he cuts off the dragon's heads while it sleeps. So yeah, sake can get you drunk, but it's typically just not used for that express purpose. There's a few different Orochi movies, actually, and there's even a version of the Orochi story that's within an old Japanese movie, older, called The Three Treasures, which is like I don't know, sort of like a compilation, I guess, of those early Japanese legends about how the islands of Japan are formed out of, like, I forget, it's like two gods. I can't remember if it's from them fighting or a different F word.
Alrighty.
But I can't remember anymore. But then then the movie starts to a little bit center in more on Susanoo and his, he's born a god and he's the storm god, and then he kind of has a fall from grace and he has to gain his way back in. That sounds like very similar to Sun Wukong in a way too. But the movie is called The Three Treasures. It's got a really good Orochi sequence. And also, the character Ghidra, the three-headed monster from Godzilla fame, is somewhat based on Orochi. That's where the idea of multi-headed dragons kind of comes from, and is being a Japanese thing.
Nice. So, let's talk about Kami. As we saw many episodes ago at this point, but we're just discussing now, Kami looks like Piccolo. Dun, dun, dun. This is Toriyama taking his love of subversion and opposites to new heights. He's introducing a purely good character, a god, as the opposite of this demon character that he just introduced. But what's the opposite of what his readers would expect from this character? How about he basically is Piccolo? Kami wears white because Shinto priests utilize white as a color representing purity. He carries a staff, perhaps simply because Toriyama already gave Korin a staff, and he wants to do a bit of reflecting that Korin, in fact, trained under Kami, and introduces a bit of as above, so below mentality to the story. He's never stated as such, but Kami and Korin's staves are actually identical in shape, just not in size. Granted, Piccolo is introduced as old, but his most iconic form is when he's young, even at the time of Toriyama's writing. He was Goku's greatest rival as a young demon. Kami is then the exact opposite of Piccolo, who is calm, old, and he's clothed in white. Now, the name Kami itself, as many people probably know by now, means god or deity. It's the modern Japanese pronunciation of the Chinese word Shin, which also has the same meaning. He's often addressed as Kami-sama, which means Lord God, the sama being an honorific that shows high respect. Shintoists use it to differentiate their Kami from those of their Buddhist counterparts as well, to show they mean a true god and not merely one of another system of belief. Kami's full title is Chikyu no Kami, or God of Earth. It should be noted that that is not his name, however, at least not his true name. The character no longer remembers his true name, thus, for purposes of the story, his name is merely Kami, as there's nothing really else to call him. This parallels other deities in Eastern belief systems who abandon their earthly names and titles and fully adopt those of their new heavenly persona. Everyone keeps calling him Kami, even though they know there are higher gods, partially out of respect, but also due to familiarity. By the time everyone learns of the vastness of the afterlife in Dragon World, they've basically already become friends with Kami.
Yeah, and it's funny. I think I mentioned in one of our past episodes that my son got really into the manga, and so I've read through the manga. Later on in Super, Goku will show up at the lookout and be like, "Oh, hey, Dende," and in possibly the only remotely good excuse to keep Mr. Popo around anymore at all, Popo chimes in and he's like, "Hey, that's Kami to you." So he's
put some respect on his name.
Yeah, that is signifying it becomes that character's name, even though it's actually his title, but that's because the character no longer remembers his name.
Makes sense, I guess. So Kami's background is in martial arts. He was a prodigy, and this is because, well, of course he was. Dragon Ball is based on martial arts as a path to enlightenment. So the higher level your power is, the better a martial artist you are. At least for now. We'll talk about higher level guys at some other time down the road when they become pertinent to the story. And they
even there you get some of that, right? Beerus is the strongest, and well, actually, Whis is even stronger, and actually, the Grand Priest or whatever is even stronger than Whis. And so it's not only as you ascend do you get to higher and higher levels of the hierarchy of gods, but you get to higher and higher levels of strength.
That's right. So Kami tells us he one day learned of the existence of Kami-sama, or Chikyu no Kami, and made a pilgrimage to see him. This is commonly held Shinto practice, that one must undertake a pilgrimage outside of civilization to connect with their spirituality. When Kami meets the prior Kami-sama, he is not granted a seat at the table, so to speak, because he has evil in his heart. All life has a yin and yang nature, and in order to be a Kami, one must purify themselves of any evil and become purely good. This is from the Shintoist belief system, emphasizing purity and attainment of spiritual purification through physical rituals and abstaining from practices seen as dirty. Combined with Buddhist practices of inner cultivation and purity, one can purify themselves inside and out and become a kami. As with many Eastern religious practices, there's a great deal of cross-pollination here, as Indian beliefs have a practice called tapas, wherein ascetics undergo suffering through fire and deep meditation to purify themselves mentally and metaphysically, and Chinese beliefs that are similar to that have a similar practice of shulian. I hope that's how you pronounce it correctly. Most likely, the Indian belief system trickled down to others, as we've seen happen with Buddhism and martial arts.
Yeah, that's pretty. That seems to be like the trend. Is something is like created in that Indian and Hindu culture, and as kind of as like as whoever Xuanzang was actually based on. The real life monk, when he went and did his pilgrimage to learn more about Buddhism to India, they brought then back over some of that culture from India with them.
Right.
So normally the purification of this evil within you would lead to that evil being consumed. That's the typical Shintoist belief. But in the case of Kami, it is physically driven out of him and becomes its own entity, Piccolo Daimyo. Though this specific instance is not common, all beings possess a Buddha nature and a demon nature, and the two are interconnected. Without one, the other cannot exist. There cannot be gods without demons. There cannot be a Kami without a Piccolo, and vice versa. That's where, if Piccolo dies, Kami dies. That's where that comes from, it's this Buddhist idea that you have to have both. Good can't exist without evil. We learn this as well, where Kami says he wants Goku to kill Piccolo, and then admits to Popo that doing so will kill him as well. This also then is the first hint that there's like some sort of bureaucracy in the heavenly realms of the dragon world. Kami's like, he's saying it's like against the rules for a Kami to kill themselves, but he's the god of earth, implying that there may be other gods of other things, and that's all out of Journey to the West. We'll probably delve into it more when we get there, but when we get into the expansion of the pantheon of gods and everything in the Dragon Ball universe, but the depiction of that pantheon of gods in Journey to the West is that of a sprawling bureaucracy with titles and positions and a rigid hierarchy. And if you think that sounds, like various parts of Dragon Ball, especially characters like King Yama, where like he's like a bureaucrat,
Sits at his desk all day.
Yeah. That's Toriyama is, again, he's pulling from Journey to the West more. We've even hinted at some of this too when we talked a bit about Sun Wukong was this immortal and was in the heavenly realms, but he was like, and they gave him this fancy title, but what it actually meant was like stable boy. And he was the stable boy to a greater god, and he felt insulted and ran amok in the heavens and was punished. I'm pretty sure that we talked about that all the way back in like our first episode, or maybe it was technically our second episode, where we talked about Goku. So you can head all the way back to that one and listen to us talk about that. One thing the English dub does is change his role. Right, he's the god of Earth in the Japanese version, but in the English version, he is called the guardian of Earth.
Correct.
Now, this was done to prevent controversy in a Western society that would potentially be outraged by the idea of a wrinkly green alien being called God. For a show that was already considered controversial because of the level of like violence that it had, and again, that perception among people in the United States, especially, that even persists in a lot of ways to this day, that if it's a cartoon, it must be for kids. Because you still hear that. Like, that was still a joke made at the Oscars, like, this past year. Like, oh, raise your hand if you had your kids fill out your ballot for you for the best animated feature portion. So, that's...
I mean,
that's
even in my own home, my wife does not understand my proclivity for watching anime and animation in general.
But this change from god to guardian has the effect of stripping away his spirituality and also making it seem like his job is to protect the earth like a bodyguard. And this leads a lot of fans in the West, especially, to assert that Kami is terrible at his job because he constantly lets the earth be ravaged by tormentors. It bears repeating. He's a deity. He's not a bodyguard. He was once a mortal man who purified his soul and became immortal. His goals and responsibilities are beyond that of earthly concern. Now, I think when we get towards the end of these notes, we're gonna maybe talk about what are his goals? But he's not the guardian. He's the god. In Shintoism, a kami is a supernatural being that lives in other dimensions, at least one other dimension or many other dimensions, but he's able to take physical form in the human physical realm. An old Shinto phrase says there are 8 million kami, or basically that just means too many to count. Like the number 8 million, I think even like 8,000 sometimes, or maybe 800,000, something like that, is a way of just saying, like a vernacular way of saying like a billion. If you like spill the bowl of cereal that you had, and you're like, oh, now there's a billion Cheerios all over the floor.
Right.
It's just 8 million is just a way in Chinese of them saying, and therefore then also trickled into Japan as well, of just like, it's too many to count. So that's yeah. There's a kami for like everything. There's fire, lightning, wind, trees, mountains, both specific mountains and mountains in general, and all manner of anything. It's basically like rule 34 of Shintoism. If it exists, there is kami of it.
No. Congratulations, you've ruined another thing for me.
This is vastly different from the Judeo-Christian concept of God. In this more commonly held Western belief, there's one God. He is the Lord God and the ruler of all and the creator of all. Shinto beliefs do refer often to a single creator deity, but kami are not omnipotent, omniscient, omnipresent beings who oversee all at all times and are perfect. They're humanistic. They have personalities. They have emotions. They have flaws. They can die. It's just that because of language and translations, there's not a perfect analog for the Judeo-Christian God in Japanese, so he's referred to there in Japanese as Kami-sama also, which adds just another layer of confusion to everything.
That's right, and it's about to get worse because muddying the waters even further is the relationship with Piccolo. He's called the Demon King and Daimao, which we know is the Japanese term for Satan. Also, when he's born, he's cast down from the heavenly realm to the lower realm, where he becomes a ruler of chaos. This is extremely similar to how Lucifer, at essentially the moment he becomes Satan and turns against God, is cast down and becomes the king of hell. But the reason Piccolo is called the Demon King culturally is that the opposite of a Buddha is, in fact, a demon king. It's your standard Toriyama opposites thing. He wanted it known to his audience that Piccolo was a high-level demon on par with a Buddha, but evil. So he's Demon King Piccolo. But why does Kami break the rules and allow Goku to see him before he is able to get past Popo? This is because Toriyama doesn't want to do a time jump at this moment. He doesn't want to have the characters on Earth spend 3 years wallowing in sadness over the deaths of Krillin, Master Roshi, Chaozu, and all the others killed by Piccolo, especially as he's already told us that they are suffering and in limbo. It would be cruel to allow this to happen for 3 years, so Toriyama needs to get on with the story and progress the plot. He's written himself into a little bit of a corner, so he has Kami break the rules. If you're looking for a reason that holds to like internal story logic, it's because of Goku's pure heart. Though Kami knows Goku cannot defeat Popo at this time, he can read what's in Goku's heart and knows that the training will only serve to make him stronger, but not actually purify him because he's already a good dude. Kami sees the virtue of Goku's purity already and decides to step in prior to the training. Goku's pure heart is also what causes Shenron to be resurrected, and because of that, ultimately the world to be saved at 20 different times in the future.
About that many.
Yeah, it's roughly. It's 800,000 times. Too many to count. This parallels various religious stories wherein humanity descends to such a terrible level that the gods or gods decide to wipe them out and basically start over, unless there are some good people around. Goku saves the world not only through his actions, but also just by being the good person that he is.
Yeah, that's a pretty classic trope. That's like the Bible has the stories of Sodom and Gomorrah, where it's like if you can find even one good person in those towns,
yeah, then we'll spare you.
I won't kill them, and they can't. They can't. But the idea is if you can find even one good person, that means there's hope. And Kami even says that he's like, I was gonna let the Dragon Balls just be gone, but because you have shown me that there's hope for people to use them responsibly.
He's sitting there looking at the list. He's like, I mean, people are wishing for girls' underwear. Like, why do they need this?
As Shenron is actually changed and revived and such multiple times in the future, we'll even talk about that more another time, if we remember. But I'm pretty sure we will, because it even happens in the superhero movie where they're like, oh, I need to change Shenron. Oh, let me just, what is it, like pour some extra water on him or something? Like, whatever.
It's like Kami is like a software dev, and he's just like, oh, let me create a little add-on really quick to buff his power.
So I'll admit, I feel like I used to for a long time when I thought that the Kami thing was he was guardian of the Earth. I used to say like, well, like this dude's the guardian of Earth. He ain't guarding a damn thing. Like,
I mean, I said the same thing until I started like getting the original understanding. That's like, no, he's not like guarding anything. He's just like the overseer of Earth.
Yeah. Even then, you got like, I feel like sometimes you gotta maybe ask yourself, like, okay, he's a god. His goals are beyond our understanding, but like, what are his goals? Does he have any? Is he like, or is like, he doesn't seem to do anything, and he causes half the problems that they have to.
Well, yeah, this whole entire storyline doesn't happen if he doesn't exist. But besides that, I could be way off base here, but I kind of have this idea that Kami's more there to prevent outside forces from affecting Earth too much. I think like the grand scheme of things is that like, hey, this is Earth. This is kind of humanity's domain. We let humanity do what it wants, which explains why like people can be evil or something like that, because they're allowing humanity to just sort of figure itself out.
Mm-hmm.
And his job as Kami is to essentially make sure that there's nothing outside of that sphere that would impact humanity's, I guess, I don't know, development or spiritual awakening or something like that.
Okay. I do feel like it gets a little bit more explained again, actually, throughout the Zamasu story arc. It's like, it is a little bit more about guiding and shepherding and stuff like that, but it's just kind of interesting. Like, do you think it says anything about Toriyama that, or maybe Eastern culture in general, that a god is so ineffective at doing like basically anything?
I mean, I agreed with the meme like when I was younger and first being exposed to this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
When I think about it now, I'm pretty in my own mind kind of set like, well, no, he's essentially just making sure that humanity is allowed to make its own decisions on how it wants to grow or how it wants to improve upon itself, and it's not really his job to enforce any kind of changes, I guess, which is why he gets involved with the Piccolo thing, because he realizes, oh no, this is my stuff causing problems on Earth and I need to take care of it.
Yeah, okay. You know what else I think too? I like, the more I'm chewing on this is I remember now in the earlier part of Z, he's actually the one who says, Goku, I'm going to take you to train with King Kai, with Kaio-sama. Like,
Mm-hmm.
Now I'm sitting here kind of actually thinking about it. It seems to me like his job is to kind of be like the advocate for Earth in meetings among the heavenly realm. Like,
sure, yeah, I could see it that way, definitely.
Like King Kai gathers the however many Kamis there are of however many populated worlds there are in his quadrant of the galaxy, right? Let's just say that there's let's say there's 20 habitable planets in King Kai's space. Because we know there's Earth and Namek and various Frieza planets, so there might even be more than 20. But like, let's say there's 100. He gathers those people and he meets with them, and he has to understand everything that's going on with them. And Kami has to be the one advocating for the 8 billion people on Earth, and trying to be like, it's like when you have interdepartmental meetings. Like, your manager, their job, a good manager's job, is to go to the either like the region VP or the company VP or whatever, depending on the size of the company, and advocate for you and your team at those meetings, and try and be like, we're doing this so well, which is why we need more resources, because we're doing a great job with these resources. We could do better. That's what Kami's kind of job is, so in my opinion, in the Dragon World. Like, he's supposed to go to King Kai and be like, hey, I've got this guy who's really, really good. He could come train with you. He could be like a benefit to your entire area of the galaxy.
Okay. No, I see this, and it's actually making a lot of sense in my head. So like, Kami's like the store manager, King Kai is the department manager, and then Whis is like accounting, and Beerus is the CEO who lays off a bunch of people when a planet is inefficient. Makes perfect sense.
And Zeno is the board of directors. who liquidates the entire company when it's displeasing to him.
Our entire universe is being run by Gordon Gekko. Excellent.
I think that makes, like, I feel like I kind of struck upon that here. I've never really considered that, but I think, yeah.
I mean, it fits because, like we were just saying, that the afterlife in the Dragon World, and also in a lot of the other stories that we've been talking about, how you're saying it's very bureaucratic and a hierarchy. Mm-hmm. Like, that just screams like corporate culture to me.
Yeah. Yeah, and we know Toriyama worked for a bit as a salary man. This could be him. This could also be him, like, taking the piss out of that a little bit, you know? Like,
yeah, sure.
Like, oh, it is such bureaucracy, and this guy is supposed to be, like, maybe he is saying that he doesn't do that great of a job because he's supposed to be advocating to his boss for, like, more resources, and the guy's, I mean,
like, it is possible that Kami is still bad at his job, I suppose. we never really sit in on one of his performance reviews.
But maybe he's not, or at least consider.
Well, maybe he's bad at his job, but he's also like that really chill manager that doesn't give his workers any crap, and that's why everyone likes him so much.
Yeah, so lay off, ease off the guy.
Listen, he's old. He's approaching retirement age. Just let him do his thing.
Yeah.
That's all we're saying.
I think that's all I got to say about Kami.
Yeah, I think I'm all Kami'd out as well.
Kamehameha.
Oh, no. Now we're starting in on the puns.
It's time to cut that discussion.
That's all right. I got a few of those for next episode. Don't worry.
Okay. I would have thought all that talk about a subject I enjoy would have soothed me, but no, something's wrong here. Can't you feel it?
All I feel is relaxed, calmed. Once I might have thought suspiciously so, but I'm too relaxed and calmed and relaxed to, you know.
What? What the hell is wrong with you?
Relax.
Bekinney, what the hell? Bekinney, snap out of it. Something's wrong.
Relax.
Bekinney, I don't know. You're being absorbed by that cushioning. Bekinney, wake up! Wake up!
Wait, what? just relax, man.
This is some type of hypnosis or something. I knew it. I knew something wasn't right here. These creatures are trying to, I don't know, absorb us, subsume us. This cushion feels sticky and... I just barely pulled myself out of it. What the hell is happening? Where the hell are all these bird creatures?
They're coming.
Bekinney, try and fight this. Damn it. It absorbed my blast. It's pulsating. It's getting stronger. What the hell?
Going to get us.
Listeners, what the heck is happening? Will I be able to rouse Bekinney and get us out of here? And what of these bird creatures? Where did they go? And what is their goal in trying to lull us into some kind of submission? Find out next time and help us achieve our final forum.
Final Form is written and produced by Tom Gwelly. It is performed by Dan Kinney and Tom Gwelly. Our webmaster is Dan Kinney. Our theme music is provided by YouTube content creator GVG Kid. Want to learn more about the Dragon Ball universe, including concept art, behind-the-scenes interviews, and recommendations from Jelli and Bekinney? Connect with us on social media. Like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter at Final Forum Pod. Make sure to subscribe, rate, and review wherever you receive your podcasts. And of course, make sure to share it with your friends and family and help us spread the word of the glory of Lord Frieza. The Frieza Force thanks you for your listenership.